Welcome back, Simian Squad, and welcome to our new Monday programming where we will cover AITA posts from Reddit. I am discontinuing the Familiar Place series of horror stories as it really just didn't seem to find an audience here on YouTube. It was doing okay over on Reddit, but YouTube, the success did not transfer. So I asked you guys, what would you like me to replace as our Monday programming? And you said, unanimously actually at last look, AITA posts from Reddit. So if you're not familiar with these, which I'm not sure why you clicked on the video if you don't know what you're getting into, AITA, or Am I the A-Hole, is a series where people give us situations from their lives, and we as internet strangers, or in the case of this video, me, Mr. Sean, will give my input on whether or not they are in fact an a-hole. If you like this channel, if you like this content, please consider subscribing. I'm trying to get 2,000 subscribers by the end of the year. And with that being said, let's get to the stories. Our first story today, AITA for not picking the restaurant my cousin wanted? I, 25 female, just recently received a great promotion at work, and I'm really excited about it. Because of this, I decided to invite some family out to dinner to celebrate. I chose a steakhouse, and when my cousin, Aria, 32 female, found out it was a steakhouse, called me to let me know that I had to pick a different restaurant. When I asked why, she explained it was because she was vegan, gluten-free, and also has a few allergies and couldn't trust that they wouldn't cross-contaminate her food. I explained to her that there were vegan and gluten-free options and we could let the restaurant know of her allergies so everything would be fine. She refused, saying it doesn't make a difference, and told me if I don't pick a different restaurant, she wouldn't attend and hung up. This has happened in the past as well. Whenever I want to go out to a restaurant, whether it's for an event or a birthday, she has an issue with it and has been doing this since I was younger. I remember when I turned 16, she told my parents that I had picked a restaurant she couldn't eat at. Because of this, my parents let her pick where we went for my birthday, and she picked one of my least favorite restaurants, and I had no fun. To be honest, I don't really care if she attends or not, so I texted her and let her know that I wouldn't be changing the restaurant. Because of this, she's been going absolutely feral and texting others to not attend because I'm being inconsiderate. I've been asked if maybe I can change the restaurant for her preferences, but I denied. AITA? Absolutely not, OP. You are not the a-hole at all. I don't even necessarily think your cousin has a gluten allergy and probably doesn't keep vegan strictly. She sounds like someone who does all this stuff simply for attention. And I know it's not cool to shame people and say that their allergies and their preferences are just for attention, but you told her there are gluten-free options, there are vegan options, and she's been doing this long before she identified as a gluten-free vegan. She just likes being in control and thinks she should get to dictate where your events take place, and that's not cool. If anything, I would straight up uninvite her, saying that she's not welcome. I don't know, this might cause a rift, but I'm petty like that. Let her know that if she can't accommodate others, then she can't be accommodated, and, kick her out of your future events, because you don't need that kind of negativity in your life. And if the family decides they don't want to be there because she won't be there, well then you know where you stand, and it's time to go find your own family. Alright, let's see what our next story holds. AITAH for playing a voice recording to prove to my friend her daughter isn't nonverbal? This sounds interesting, doesn't it? So I, 30 female, have a friend, 34 female, that has a non-verbal, in quotations, daughter, 3 female. Let's call her Allie. I watch her 4 days out of the week in my in-home daycare. I require contracts for every child, and she never filled out the special needs section, and at no point when she asked me to take Allie did she mention any type of speech delay or non-speaking issue. Although Allie didn't speak much at first, I figured she was shy, she communicated her needs to me very well and said small things to me frequently. Last month, I was in the bathroom. I keep the door barely cracked with a wedge so I can listen for any dangers and they can't walk in or see me. She walked by and said, "Ew, you stinky." I laughed and told her mom at pickup what she said, and I was met with, "She isn't verbal. Why would you mock her?" I reassured her that Allie has spoken to me quite a few times, and I thought that it was a huge milestone from when she first arrived and was barely saying anything. She told me she didn't believe me, and that it was messed up that I would make up something like that to upset her. I told her that I wasn't trying to upset her, but I wasn't lying either. I didn't press the issue further. Here's where I might be the a-hole. I decided to record Allie, a voice recording, not her face, telling me her name and what her favorite animal is. I had full intention of showing Mom the recording, but I was scared at first because of her blow-up at me, and I didn't know how she would react. After a few short pickups and drop-offs, she told me it was water under the bridge and that she didn't want to talk about it anymore. She even insisted that I went to the birthday party. After that, I was just happy Allie could continue, and I ended up forgetting I had the recording at all. Fast forward to Friday, about a month later. She had a birthday party for her other child. At the party, I was socializing with other family members. Honestly, I'm a total dumbass for forgetting that her family fully thought that she was nonverbal. I mentioned the funny things Allie had said to me while we were reading an animal book. Turns out the person I was talking to was her sister, and she started yelling at me saying, "She is non-verbal! Why are you lying?" Both her and her sister started berating me, saying that it's effed up that I'm making this up about Allie being verbal. At this point, I'm tired of being called a liar. I have 2 disabled children whom my son was nonverbal for many years. I wouldn't lie about something like this. So while everybody was staring at me, I was scared and felt backed into a corner. So I, remembering I had the recording, decided to prove my case and play the voice recording. Everybody was shocked, and my friend told me to leave. I told her I didn't want to cause issues, but I'm not going to be berated and called a liar. She said I crossed the line recording her daughter and said I'm an a-hole for embarrassing her at the party. Now I feel horrible and wondering if I should have just let it go. Edit for clarification and extra context. Whenever she would pick up and drop off, she wouldn't ask me much other than, how was her nap, how much did she eat, and I would hand her the daily report. Then she would leave and not stay for small talk even when I would try to initiate. I know people have busy lives, so I'm not going to try and make them stay and talk to me about their life story. I also didn't do the recording to embarrass her in any way. I didn't mean any vindication by it. I can admit I should have shown her immediately after I recorded it, but I'm also human and I was afraid of a second blow-up. After her saying it was water under the bridge, I was just happy she wasn't going to take Allie away, so I put it in the back of my mind and forgot about it. I feel bad about how I went about my defense, hence the post. I know it was unprofessional and unethical. I apologize profusely to everybody at the party and the family as well. I will be putting cameras in my home that everybody will have access to, as well as updating all the contracts to let parents know what is going to happen going forward. Peace of mind for everybody sounds good to me. Also, I'll be making a few calls to CPS about the situation and see what they have to say. Thank you everybody for your kind words. OP, you are definitely not the a-hole here. In fact, I think CPS is the right way to go with this. This woman, for whatever reason, has just decided that her daughter is nonverbal and probably has repressed any time the daughter has tried to speak and has actually scolded her. This woman, for some unknown reason, gets off on being the mother of a disabled child, and she's going to make this girl, as she grows up, feel like she is stupid, she is going to stunt her growth, she is going to do irreparable damage to this human being who is only shy, which is completely okay. She clearly has something to say, but her mother will never let her say it, and that is very bad. This woman should not be a mother, and the fact that she has hammered into her family, it's not just her own opinion. She's like, no, my daughter is nonverbal, to the fact that people aggressively berate someone who insinuates otherwise. Yeah, this woman shouldn't have a child, so no, you're not the a-hole. In fact, I think you would be if you don't do more to get this girl either removed from her mother's care, or at the very least get the mom to comply with, state-mandated therapy for the fact that she's just cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs and gets her jollies off of having a disabled daughter when her daughter's perfectly normal. This woman's a terrible human being, and I wish the worst for her and the best for her daughter. Alright guys, moving right along, we do try to keep these videos under 30 minutes so that people can enjoy them on their lunch break, so let's get into the next story. AITA for telling my brother he's not an adventurer. I, 39-year-old male, a former soldier who served 2 tours in Iraq and 1 in Afghanistan, plus heaps of other deployments around the world to pay for his education. Post-EAS, I worked for 2 years on an oil derrick in the North Sea. I've done aid work in Belize, Rwanda, and the Dominican Republic of the Congo, and Nepal. When I was 15, I hiked all through Thailand as part of my school's hiking club. This is not a humble brag, but to provide context for the rest of the story. My brother M has done none of those things. He went straight from high school to university on a trust fund from his grandfather, we have different moms, and has worked at the same accounting firm for the past 3 years. The other day, M was at my place for dinner. He had recently returned from a holiday in Vietnam. He was showing my son, 9-year-old, all the pictures he had taken and telling him all these embellished stories of seeing crocodiles while sailing down the Mekong or eating live snakes at a night market and other nonsense. As an aside, for the past 2 years, M has done this. He'd go on some Kentucky tour overseas, be a tourist the entire time, then come home and tell my kid not just about the trip, but add all these BS details to make himself seem like an adventurer. At one point, he was talking about how his tour bus got stopped by a group of armed tribesmen in the jungle, and the conversation went like this. Son, wow, Uncle M, weren't you scared? M. A bit, I suppose, but it was more exciting than anything. I suppose adventure just appeals to some of us. At this point, I lost it. I didn't raise my voice, but through gritted teeth, I told him how, despite having done the things I'd done when I was younger, I never tried to pass myself off as brave or adventurous. Hell, every time I told my son about my deployments, I'd always emphasize how frightened I was and how out of depth I felt the entire time, because the last thing I want him to do is join up when he's older thinking it's some grand adventure. I told him that we were happy to hear of his travels, but he was an idiot for embellishing it to the extent he does just to impress his nephew, and that in all of his trips he was a tourist and not an adventurer. He said something like, "Well, I suppose everybody's definition of adventure is different," before changing the subject entirely. Later that night, I get a text from my dad saying that M told him what happened, asking for my side of the story. After I told him, he told me that while he agrees M needs to quit his BSing, the way I went about it was still uncalled for. I reminded him that it was grandfather's stories about fighting in the Pacific in World War II that encouraged me to enlist and wind up with TBI, hearing loss, and the back and knees of a man twice my age. I was trying to protect my son from going through the same thing. My old man just goes, "Yeah, well, you were still an effing dick about it," then hung up. So Reddit. AITA? Honestly, OP, this might be an unpopular opinion because I feel like people might definitely go the other way, but I think you are the a-hole here. Your half-brother, isn't telling your son to go join the military, but he is trying to make it seem like it's really cool and fun to travel and go places. Sure, he's being a tourist, and sure, he's embellishing, but he's not giving your son any stories that are going to put him in any kind of danger. You said you don't want him to end up in the service thinking it's some grand adventure because your grandfather's stories inspired you. Well, you're giving him realistic stories about your time in the service, but what does an embellished story about your brother's vacation have to do with anything? It sounds like you are mad that you did humble brag at the beginning. You said you didn't, but you did. And I think you're upset that you've chosen not to brag about these things, and then you feel like it's bad when someone else is embellishing stories to tell to a 9-year-old, which is really, he's just telling him about fun vacations he had, and he's adding a little bit of embellishment on it. Who the F cares? Except for you, of course. I mean, you clearly care, and I think maybe you should be a little more honest with yourself, and that you do consider yourself an adventurer, and maybe you should tell your kids some stories, be realistic about it, but don't just harbor resentment for people who tell their stories like there's something fun, as opposed to you that wants to make it sound like everything sucks. And I think you're also a little, there's a hint of sour grapes that your brother, who had a different mom, has had life a little easier than you. He had the trust fund, he didn't have to join the service, and it sounds like, he's gotten to go on a lot of vacations from, probably there's some residual wealth going on, because I don't know if being an accountant would pay for all this, but it sounds like there's some sour grapes, and that you need to get over that. Get over yourself, and let people entertain your kid. That's my conclusion here. Alright guys, we're going to have 2 more stories. The next one is going to be, like the ones we've done before, but as is the tradition with my channel, sometimes we like our last story to be just a little bit spicier. So we're going to have one more mundane, normal AITA story, and then we're going to have a spicy one, guys. So look forward to that. That's going to be the format for this series. Our next story. AITA, if I, 29 female, tell my husband 31 male, I'm not willing to spend $10K on a down payment for the new truck because driving my car makes him feel less of a man. Edit to clarify title. We were looking at used trucks. Said new as the truck would be new to us. Doesn't change point of post much, but wanted to be accurate. Backstory. My husband and I got married last July, but we've been together for a total of 7.5 years. We've always kept our finances separate, but I've been wanting to merge accounts for a while to remove the feeling of his and my money and approach our finances as a team rather than 2 individuals. If it matters, he makes about 15 to 20K more a year than I do, but I have the most money in my savings account. Long story short, his car has a lot of problems and he's been wanting a truck for a while. Logically, we really do need a truck to allow us to do more home renovations and be less reliant on family. But I'm not sure now is the right time. I've asked him if we can set a goal to purchase a truck this summer so we can focus on saving up for a good down payment to lower our monthly payments and so we can remain secure with a nest egg in our bank account. I currently have $13,000 in my account. This includes both my savings and my checking account. He has anywhere from $5,000 to $7,000 in his account typically. While I've kept my spending more frugal, he has, to be fair, spent more money on our home and daily needs as I work remote whereas he works in person, so it's easier for him to grab last-minute items throughout the week. I want to make sure I'm not making him look like he's being selfish. That's not the case, but I do think he is being immature. He asked me if he can go look at a $39,000 truck this weekend and is asking me to put down $10,000. Now don't get me wrong, I'm not hoarding my money from him, but I grew up homeless, without basic needs, and I don't ever want to put myself into a position where I'm struggling again. We are 100% not poor, but I would feel very insecure dropping my account down by that much when I've been saving this money for years. To add to the conflict, when I remind him we don't need the truck this minute, that we can use my car until say August or September, he says driving my car makes him feel like he's not a man. I tried to tell him there's nothing manlier than a man who puts his family's financial interests before his wants, but he just clams up. He essentially told me that I obviously don't think my bank account as ours, and what I say is apparently the final say. I've tried to have a mature conversation to weigh the pros and cons, but he is legitimately pouting. I'm talking no eye contact, monosyllable responses, and not engaging in the discussion. I don't want to have him feeling like his wants aren't valid, but how do I get him to see from my perspective? Or if necessary, how do I see from his when he won't give me anything more than, it's the only truck that meets our requirements within 500 square miles, you have more money than I do, and your car is a chick's car. Too long didn't read? My husband wants me to drop my bank account down to $3,000 so he can have a manly vehicle. Now, there is an edit, but I'm going to give my initial reaction here. No, your husband's being a jerk. What even is a manly car? Both my wife and I drive hatchbacks, and I've never thought of my car as unmanly. I actually call it the Blueberry because it's blue like the car in Psych. And since my name is Sean, it just fits. Editing to address some questions, feedback, and overall absurdity. I'm sure most of you out there understand that there's only so much context or nuance that can be included with a single Reddit thread. With that in mind, let's try not to judge my husband too harshly. First things first, I want to address the elephant in the room, which might disappoint some of you. I drive a black 2018 Nissan Sentra. We call her Bernice. Excellent gas mileage, comfortable, spacious enough for a starter family, and still shiny too. He has no problem whatsoever in the way he's perceived driving the car. It's the fact that it has no torque to it. His current car is a 2016 Subaru WRX, and he spent the last 8 years driving it. I can't lie, I also really enjoy the turbo and the handling, so I understand the disappointment going from that to Bernice. She's a true point A to point B vehicle, no bells or whistles, and always loses in a race. So while I still don't think this is a good enough reason to jump on the gun of this truck, it's not really about it being in a truck. Piggybacking off of this, I quoted him verbatim on the title. He truly said, driving your car makes me feel less of a man, but it isn't any deeper than the fact that my car is slow and a bad choice of words on his part. But to play the devil's advocate, I do call my car a she and named her Bernice, so I guess I started the whole gender assignment debacle. He's not a misogynist, and while he wasn't choosing his words correctly, I don't think his feelings are invalid to an extent. He was in motocross throughout middle and high school, and as soon as he had enough money, he bought a sports bike. Add in that he's so used to a quick day-to-day vehicle, I see why he might feel stifled by a boring car like mine. Is that a mature excuse? No, but it's not hard to understand his inner feelings on this. Next, I want to be fair to both myself and to him on our spending and why our bank accounts are where they are right now. He took out a loan for his motorcycle in 2016, and I think that was $15,000 to $16,000 loan, and took another loan in 2017 to buy his car. I don't know the numbers exactly, but he put a reasonable down payment on the car and ended up with a $26,000 loan. Objectively, both were in bad financial decisions, but he was barely 22 or 23, so I'll give him some grace on that. He paid off his bike in 2023 and his car late last year. He sold his bike last summer as well. Now that I think about it, losing his bike and having his Subaru start dying might explain the urgency he's feeling. With both of those loans rolling over the last several years and taking on home ownership, he wasn't saving much. Because we weren't engaged at the time of us buying the house, and I wouldn't benefit from the equity put into the home, we decided I would furnish the house, pay an equal share towards home renovations, pay for the majority of groceries, cover electricity and internet, but he would cover the mortgage, heating, and taxes. It was a fair exchange, as we did look into the numbers to make sure we were both putting in a fair share based on our individual income. Now, why 8+ months without those big monthly payments and extra money after selling his bike is he still not saving enough? That is the big question. I took the advice many of you gave me and sat down with Excel after reading through some of your responses and began a budget for us. I am seeing areas I need to improve in, but we'll have to see what's going on with his numbers tomorrow. One more thing. Though they were buried, some of you did suggest putting a ball sack on the back end of Bernice. It was a valid suggestion, but she's secure with her identity. OP, there's a slight update of you are slightly an idiot. I'm not even going to say a-hole. You're an idiot because guys name their car women after women. No guy names his car after a dude. So that the Bernice thing isn't, there's no gender issue here. He wants a fast vroom vroom to make his penis feel big, and he's still a jerk. All right, guys, time for that final spicy story. So, without further ado, let's get into it. And it is AITH for letting my guy friend climax inside me, even though I kinda didn't want him to. Well, without actually reading the story, it sounds like you're a trooper, but let's see. So I, 19 female, have been seeing this guy, 30 male, for about 9 months, and it's been great, and I definitely have feelings for him. We work together, but not in the same department, and we'll often meet afterwards to eat and hang out. Then we usually go to his apartment, where he normally takes me to Pound Town. The S is great. We just connect, and we always use condoms, but we've both been over them lately due to the smell and lack of sensation. So last night, we're having S, and it's getting really passionate and just kinda primal. Background, I'm 5'1", and he's 6'5", so it's easy to toss me around. His words, LOL. And basically, while taking me to Pound Town, he says he needs to really feel me and takes off the prophylactic. He didn't really give me a chance to respond before he just shoved himself back in. I was a little taken aback, but gave verbal indication of enjoyment instead of a protest, cause it honestly felt good, and I guess he took that as a please continue. So he did what he usually does, which is to climax without pulling out, but it's okay cause normally he's wearing the prophylactic. But because he wasn't wearing one this time, I assumed he'd pull out, but he didn't. He began to get really into it, so I asked him if he was about to finish, and he said yes, he was about to finish, in me. And I said, but you took off the prophylactic. But he was already grunting and doing his thing. I was upset and asked why he didn't pull out, and he said he forgot that we were no longer using protection. Which I don't really believe, but I said I could take a plan B. Well, he ended up staying in me for a minute, while we kissed, and he just kind of collapsed on top of me. Like 10 minutes later, I could feel him getting eager again, and we started up again. About 20 minutes later, he did the same thing, and this time I was pissed. I asked him why he kept doing that, and he laughed and shrugged it off, saying he couldn't help it. Is it true that guys can't help it? I have a feeling they can't, LOL. He ended up doing that to me a few more times because he said I'm getting Plan B anyway, which is true, but I still feel violated in a way. AITA for being upset with him? Alright guys, we're gonna see if that language was cleaned up enough to, not offend Lady Algorithm, but I'm gonna say that no, you, and if anything, you're not mad enough, OP. When you have an intimate partner, both of you need to do everything you can to maintain your sexual wellness, so to speak. The fact that, it sounds like you've clearly only been using, prophylactics in order to prevent the spread of potential pregnancy or even disease, and that you're not on any kind of birth control yourself. So yes, what he did was very, very stupid, and he is old enough, being in his 30s, to know that it was stupid, and he is taking advantage of a woman that is, a decade younger than him, and going, oh, I just can't help it. Basically, what he did is to do something to you without your consent, and then to repeatedly do it again and go, oh, what's the big deal? Why are you mad? This, I mean, only you can decide if it is or it isn't, but this sounds like he essayed you, essentially, by doing things. Even if you had agreed to intimate time, you did not agree to it in the way that he wanted it, and he did not take your consent as a factor, and continued to do things that you didn't want him to do. And that's essay in my book. Not the a-hole, and the guy definitely an a-hole. And that's our video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. We will be doing more of these AITA videos going forward on Mondays. So, you know, as it stands, it'll be AITA Mondays, Reddit Story Wednesdays, and usually something in the neckbeardy variety, and then, of course, Lost Media Fridays, with the occasional members-only video sprinkled in here and there. Again, please subscribe if you like this content. I am trying to get to 2,000 subscribers by the end of this year. Consider becoming a channel member or Patreon patron, and maybe even head on over to eBay and Mercari to check out my custom miniatures. Also, we have a bunch of spicy Funko Pops and the version 2.0, because it did have some formatting errors, of Heir of the White King. My first ever published Call of Cthulhu module is available for just $3 over on DriveThruRPG. Link is in the description. Until next time, everybody, I'm Mr. Sean. This is Mr. Sean Productions, and I sincerely hope that you are not the a-hole, and that you alpha great day and an even beta tomorrow. Bye-bye.